Let's go Ravens! There are rumors about potential rising stars, new offensive possibilities, and even a trade idea involving a wide receiver that almost no one in the Ravens community is talking about yet. And when I first heard that name associated with Baltimore, I have to admit, it made a lot more sense than people realize. But before we get into the details, I need to ask something quickly. Make sure you've already clicked the like button, but only if you're a true Baltimore Ravens fan. Let's see how many fans are here now. And while you're in the comments, write with me, go Ravens! In 2026, we'll be back stronger. Okay, let's go. Let's get straight into it, because one of the most talked about names when it comes to potential breakout performances is Lamar Jackson. Now, at first glance, some fans might say it sounds strange to call Lamar a breakout candidate. After all, he has already proven himself many times and has produced historic performances throughout his career. But the discussion here is a little different. The idea is not that Lamar Jackson hasn't already arrived. The idea is that we may still not have seen the absolute best version of him yet. There's a strong belief that in a new offensive environment, Lamar could evolve yet again. We've seen him reach incredible levels before, but every time people say he can't get any better, he finds another gear. The expectation now is that he could take another step forward and continue developing as one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the entire league. Even after everything he has accomplished, the possibility of another leap in his game is something that has fans extremely excited heading into the new season. But Lamar isn't the only name on the radar. Another player who keeps coming up as a potential breakout candidate is Mike Green. His rookie season had flashes of promise, but like many young defenders entering the NFL, he was still learning and adjusting to the speed of the league. Now, with another year of experience and development, the expectation is that he could take a major step forward. There's a lot of optimism about what he can become, especially considering the influence of Jesse Minter on the defensive side. Jesse Minter's ability to maximize talent has been a huge talking point. Even with rosters that didn't always have the most recognizable names, he managed to get strong performances from his defensive units. Now imagine what could happen when he's working with a group that includes players like Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey, and others already established within the Ravens defense. That environment could be perfect for second-year players like Mike Green to truly emerge. And the list of possible breakout players doesn't stop there. Names like Malachi Starks and Easels have also been mentioned as young talents who could benefit from this defensive structure and take a leap forward. At the same time, other names appearing in these discussions include Keith Mitchell, Zay Flowers, Ronnie Stanley, and Kyle Hamilton, players who already have strong reputations but could elevate their impact even further in the upcoming season. But here's where things get even more interesting for Ravens fans. There has also been talk about a potential move at wide receiver that almost nobody is discussing yet. One of the ideas floating around involves a possible trade target that could completely change the dynamic of the Ravens offense. A.J. Brown has been mentioned as a name that could make sense if the situation were ever to develop in that direction. He's a powerful receiver who could bring a physical presence to complement players like Zay Flowers, giving Lamar Jackson another major weapon in the passing game. At the same time, another intriguing name that has surfaced in these conversations is Jaylen Waddle. The idea of pairing his speed with Zay Flowers could create one of the most explosive receiver combinations in the league. While there are discussions about size and durability concerns, the potential playmaking ability of that duo is something that would immediately grab attention across the NFL. And when you start analyzing the possibilities for this Ravens offense, the conversation naturally circles back to how these pieces could fit around Lamar Jackson. Because if there's one thing we've learned over the years, it's that Lamar elevates the players around him, but at the same time, when you give him the right weapons, the ceiling of the entire offense rises dramatically. That's why these discussions about the wide receiver room are becoming more intense as the offseason approaches. One of the key points being discussed internally is how the philosophy around wide receivers may be evolving. In previous years, the Ravens offense often prioritized the run game and tight ends in the passing attack. That system shaped how receivers viewed the team and sometimes even influenced free agent decisions. But things have been gradually changing. When the offensive structure becomes more open and receiver-friendly, suddenly Baltimore becomes a much more attractive destination for talented pass catchers. And that's why the idea of bringing in a major wide receiver through a trade has started gaining traction among analysts and insiders who follow the team closely. If you look at someone like A.J. Brown, for example, you're talking about a receiver who brings physicality, contested catch ability, and the kind of presence that can dominate on the outside. That type of player would give Lamar Jackson something the Ravens offense has sometimes lacked, a true power receiver who can win those difficult 50-50 situations. At the same time, there's the other side of the discussion. Some analysts argue that the Ravens might prefer to lean into speed and explosiveness instead. That's where the idea of Jaylen Waddle becomes fascinating. His ability to stretch the field and create separation could open up huge opportunities not only for himself but also for players like Zay Flowers underneath. Imagine defenses trying to deal with that level of speed on multiple sides of the field while Lamar Jackson is extending plays. It could become a nightmare matchup for defensive coordinators across the league. Of course, every potential move comes with questions. In the case of Jalen Watt, durability has been one of the concerns mentioned in conversations. Injuries have occasionally interrupted his momentum, and that's something teams always evaluate carefully before making a big trade decision. There's also the discussion about roster balance. If you already have a smaller, explosive receiver like Zay Flowers, do you want another player with a similar profile? Or would it make more sense to bring in someone with a larger frame to diversify the offense? That's why the A.J. Brown idea keeps resurfacing in these debates. His style of play complements speed receivers extremely well. While Zay Flowers can attack defenses with quickness and separation, a receiver like Brown can dominate in physical matchups and give the quarterback a reliable target in tight coverage. In many ways, that type of combination can create the perfect balance within an offense. But regardless of which direction the Ravens eventually take, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The organization understands that maximizing Lamar Jackson's prime years is the priority. When you have a quarterback capable of producing MVP-level seasons, the goal is to surround him with as many dangerous weapons as possible. And that's why every rumor, every discussion, and every potential trade idea is being examined closely. At the same time, the development of the young core already on the roster will play a huge role in determining how aggressive the team needs to be. If players like Mike Green, Malachi Starks, and others take the expected leap forward, the Ravens could enter the season with one of the most balanced rosters in the NFL. Add a major offensive weapon to that mix, and suddenly the conversation shifts from simply competing to potentially dominating. And that's the scenario that has Ravens fans buzzing right now. Because when you look at the roster, the coaching adjustments, and the possible moves that could still happen, it feels like Baltimore might be building something very special heading into the 2026 season. And there's another angle to this entire discussion that Ravens fans shouldn't ignore. When you look at the way modern NFL offenses are evolving, having multiple dynamic receivers isn't just a luxury anymore, it's almost a necessity. Defenses are getting faster, more versatile, and more creative with their coverages. The teams that consistently stay ahead are the ones that can attack in multiple ways through the air while still maintaining balance in the run game. For Baltimore, this is especially important because Lamar Jackson's unique playmaking ability forces defenses to make impossible choices. When he extends plays outside the pocket, receivers who can separate quickly or win physical battles become even more valuable. That's why adding the right piece to this offense could unlock an entirely new dimension for the Ravens' attack. Imagine a situation where defenses already have to account for Lamar Jackson's mobility, Zay Flowers' explosiveness, and the presence of Baltimore's tight ends. Now add a receiver who can either stretch the field vertically or dominate contested catches on the outside. Suddenly defensive coordinators are forced into constant adjustments, and that's exactly where the Ravens' offense becomes truly dangerous. Another key factor is how this would impact the development of the younger players already on the roster. When a proven veteran receiver joins a group, it often accelerates the growth of everyone else in that room. Younger players learn route discipline, preparation habits, and how to handle pressure moments in big games. That type of leadership can sometimes be just as valuable as the production on the field. And let's not forget the psychological impact across the league. When rival teams see Baltimore aggressively building around Lamar Jackson, it sends a clear message that the Ravens are pushing all their chips toward competing for a championship. That kind of mindset can energize the locker room and raise expectations across the entire organization. So the big picture here isn't just about one potential trade or one breakout player. It's about how all these pieces could come together to shape the identity of the Ravens heading into the 2026 season. If the young defensive talents take the expected leap, if Lamar Jackson continues evolving as a passer, and if the front office finds the right addition for the receiving core,